What's up, brothers? Mike, your mentor, here for a Friday Man Up session. Awesome. Glad you could be here. Glad you're watching this video if you're checking it out. So, two housekeeping things. First, I'm Mike, your mentor. Obviously, that's why you're on this page. And if you never visited my page before, the reason I started this is because looking back on my life, I was trying to figure out, why could someone be born into the situation that I was born into and make something out of their life, right? Like be the first person in my family to graduate from college, hold down a good job, give back to my community, have my own family, right? Have a marriage that's lasted 11 years so far. Not to say that I'm perfect, because I'm not. I got a lot of demons, a lot that I've shared on these posts, a lot that I'll be sharing. But the two big things that made the most difference in my life was one, the grace of God, and two, I had mentors in my life, whether that was through reading books and discovering what other people had been through and how they were able to help themselves overcome obstacles and tragedy, or it was guys that came alongside me throughout my life in various forms and wouldn't let me quit, right? They saw something in me. They lifted me up. They picked me up. They instilled values into me that have carried me to this day, and will continue to carry me throughout the rest of my life. And I appreciate that, right? And now here I am at 38, and I find myself asking myself this question: is what am I going to do, right? Men are out there killing themselves physically. They're dying inside emotionally, and God is saying to me, what are you going to do about it? And what I'm going to do about it is just share my story and teach the things that I've learned that have helped me. So welcome to this. I hope you get a lot out of this. If you have the opportunity, I definitely encourage you to take some notes, because every Friday here on this channel, we go over the quest for authentic manhood. And this is a workbook and a video series that I went through in 2007 with a group of guys at a time in my life where, man, I needed a lifeline. I was barely hanging on to my marriage. I was losing, or I was trying to find my real identity, right? I've been lying to myself for so long about different parts of my life and who I was, and just not acknowledging the feelings and the emotions that I had, right? And this really helped me do that, and brought me to a new place in my relationship with my wife. And now that I have kids, into my relationship with them, and when I interact with people on an everyday basis, right? These things I learned throughout this process have helped me immensely. So I'm just trying to share those things with you, because I know that they'll make a difference in your life and bless you. So we'll jump right into it here. All right. So this week is the second step to authentic manhood, and it's titled Unpacking. And this picture you see of this gentleman, right? He's standing on some sort of rock in the mountains, and he's overlooking what adventure lies in front of him. And he's got a backpack on, and it's kind of ironic, right? Because whether we want to acknowledge it or not, we all have backpacks that we're carrying on our backs throughout this thing called life, right? As we look out into the landscape and what our life possibly has for us, many of us have forgotten what it is we're carrying in our backpacks, because we take these things, especially as men, and we stuff them down, and we forget they're there, and they hinder us along our journey. And until we really take that backpack off and dump its contents out and decide what we're going to put back in that backpack and take on in our journey, or what we're going to leave behind in our journey, is going to make a difference in the type of life we experience, right? And the type of satisfaction that we get from this journey that we're going on. So here's the first thing we want to talk about, right? We want to remember why men struggle, and we've talked about this in weeks prior. but men struggle because of society and the changes within it. And we went over the history of manhood throughout our lives. And, a good example of that was the Industrial Revolution, right? It was a good thing in society. It created a lot of opportunity for a lot of families. But one of the negative things about that was it pulled men out of being on the farm, in the home, pretty much all day long with their kids and with their family, modeling what real manhood looks like, to have them leaving for 8, 10, 12 hours a day, and leaving mom to raise the kids while dad went out and tried to provide a better life. The next thing, or another good example, is something we're experiencing right now. That kind of started in the 70s, but it's really taking off right now, and that's the gender revolution, right? We're at this time in society where everything that we thought we knew is now being challenged regarding gender. And are men really men anymore? Are men different than women? And if so, on what level? So we're facing all these new changes and challenges from society, and it's contributing to the way men feel about themselves and the way they deal with these emotions and these realities that are fast coming down the pipeline here. Men struggle because of family dynamics, right? Like if you think back on the type of family that you grew up in, what were the conversations that you heard going on at the bottom of the stairs? How were things modeled for you within a family, about how the responsibilities maybe a man was supposed to take on, the responsibilities maybe a woman was supposed to take on, how mom and dad worked together to bring the family together and to make things happen. Or maybe you came from a very dysfunctional home like myself, and you didn't have a father figure there, and you were trying to figure out things on your own, and you were taking your cues from all these other things that you saw around you. So looking at how you were raised, and then what was modeled, because these things affect your life to this day. The next reason why men struggle is dad. You can't deny that there's a special relationship between a father and a son, because that models the relationship that a man will have with his maker, and in my case, the God of the Bible. And the way that you remember dad is often the way that you associate God in your life, and what he wants, what kind of relationship that he wants to have with you. Yeah, I lost my train of thought. But so what, your relationship with your dad. Now, it's funny because your dad, he could have been there physically, right? Like a lot of dads were, but maybe he was worn out from working all day, so he wasn't exactly there emotionally, and he took a passive role in the house and let mom figure everything else out, and dictate how things were going to go. And maybe he didn't take an active role in your life in teaching you certain things, certain life skills, how to change a tire, how to change oil, how to write a check, all these things, all these skills you need to pick up along the way, that can, I guess, define your manhood in one way or another. So what was your relationship like with dad? Was he there physically? Was he there emotionally? And the point of all this and going over these things, right, is we can't change what we don't understand. And if we don't take the time to empty out our backpack and understand what has shaped us and made us the person we are today, we're not going to be able to move forward. I had an awesome meeting this morning with a brother who reached out to me, who's going through some tough times in his marriage. And he's at the point in his life where he's realized for the last number of years how he's treated his wife, and the way that he's treated his family, and he's abused that role and that position within his family, and his eyes are wide open now, and he's taking the steps to move forward, and now step into that responsibility in that honor that was given him. And it's not easy, right? And he knows that. And part of that is him taking a good look at his past and the way that he grew up and the things that he picked up along the way and how those are influencing the decisions that he was making and he is making now. So right, in every man there's this unfinished business. And I think it was last week, right? I had this picture of a guy. He's staring back in a tunnel, and it's dark, and that was a good picture for for the majority of men, right? Like when we look back on our lives, like we don't want to face those things that caused us shame, those things that caused us pain. I don't really think that anybody does, but that's part of our responsibility as men, is to look those things in the eye and to deal with those, because when we bring those things to the light, they don't have any power over us. No more. Those things are left by the wayside, and we're able to walk forward as a new creation and be completely free of that bondage that had us. So the first part of unfinished business is addressing the unfinished business of our past, right? Acknowledging that we all have wounds. No one goes through life without picking up a wound or various wounds of one kind of another. So first we need to give context, right? Like when I'm talking about a wound, like what do I mean by a wound? And I mean that a wound is any unresolved issue where lack of closure adversely impacts and shapes. I can't read that because something's in the way. Let me grab my book. Shapes the direction and dynamics of a man's life now, right? And I think a good quote that I got in my book from when I went through this course that's applicable, right, is the deepest wounds are those of a man's soul, right? I mean, I just think of one of my deep wounds, right, and that's wanting to be chosen by my father, right? And that's not something that's on the surface. That's something that goes to the core being of who I am, and something that I needed to deal with and find a way to move past and get free of that. So there's 5 wounds every man must deal with. 1 second here, I'm gonna close something out. All right, now I can see. All right, so there's 5 wounds every man must deal with. The first wound that a man has to deal with is the absent father wound. And I kind of hinted on this before, but your dad, he could have been gone physically like my dad was, right? He was gone through the majority of my early life, in and out of prison. And then when he was around, he may have been around for a little bit, and then he'd disappear. And then he'd come back in my life for a little bit, and then he'd disappear. Then he'd come back at a little bit, and then he'd disappear. And then finally he died, and there never was a relationship there. Really, because he was never physically around. The other thing is, right, I mentioned this, was your dad may have been there physically, but he wasn't there emotionally. He just took a passive position within the household, and he worked, and maybe he was a great provider, but he came home and he let mom take care of things. Mom took care of the kids. Mom interacted with the kids. Dad, maybe he sat in the chair and drank a beer and watched TV till it was time to go to bed and time for him to go back to work again. Maybe he was quiet and reserved and didn't really speak to you, didn't really ask you, how your day was, or struck up crucial conversations with you about, I don't know, the opposite sex, what it's like to be a teenager, getting married, all these things that, conversations a father should be having with their son. So that's the first wound. The second wound is the overly bonded mother wound. And right, this is because mom is trying to compensate for dad not being there. So mom becomes very attached to you, almost like not so much as a motherly role, while that does play a part, but almost like your friend. Like you become her confidant and she becomes your confidant. And then when it's time for you to break free and fly out of the nest, so to speak, you're not able to do that because of that relationship has become overly bonded. So to give you an example, you find yourself in marriage And instead of talking to your wife about things and about issues, the first person you're calling your mom, to talk to her, and share what's going on with her. And I don't mean not just to get advice, but your mom is hearing stuff that should be reserved for you and your wife. Or maybe your mom finds a way to interject herself into every part of your life because she can't cut the umbilical cord and let you go. Um, it goes kind of both ways with this wound, and it's because dad wasn't there. The next wound that a man has to face is they have to face the all alone wound, right? There's this thing with men, and it's called isolation, and it's a silent killer. The devil does a good job of shaming us and beating us down, and then we gotta fake the funk. We gotta fake it till you make it, right? We gotta lie to ourselves and lie to everyone else around us because we gotta put this mask on that says, "I'm doing good, I'm fine," um, and not being true and saying, "Hey, brother, I'm hurting, man. This is what's going on in my life. I've got marriage problems. I've got problems at work. I've got problems with my kids." Whatever that looks like, not being willing to face that, and so we isolate ourselves and we fake it, and that's a result because of mentoring is missing in your life. You don't have a mentor. You don't have somebody that's your confidant that you can go to and share these super hard things with them, and they can look you in the eye, not judge you, and give you unbiased advice because they truly want the best for you. You also have no close friends connected to you. After I get done with this, and I'm not bragging when I'm telling you guys this. I'm just trying to share these things to you to encourage you to build these support systems in your life because you need them, especially when the crap hits the fan, right? Like, who can you turn to have your back and to hold you up? So when I'm done with this Man Up Friday, the guys that I originally went through this course plus a couple other guys, we're going to have a guys weekend. So we rent a house, we go there, we hang out, we eat good food, but it's really a time also to challenge each other, challenge us in our marriages, challenge us in our relationships with God, challenge us in our relationships with our kids, and God does some amazing things because we all hold each other accountable. I mean, like, literally, we get in a hot seat, and for 45 minutes, guys are zinging questions at us left and right, and we're answering them. And you get out of it what you give. And the guys that I go with, they're just real vulnerable dudes. So sometimes there's tears, sometimes there's anger, sometimes there's a lot of joy. But we get after it, and you need that. You need to have a group of friends that you can go to, and they can call you on your BS, and they can point out things that maybe you're not seeing. So the next wound that you have to deal with as a man is the lack of a manhood vision wound. And man, this is prevalent in our society because you don't know what you don't know. And one of the things about Western culture is there's no rite of passage for a man. Like, there's no set in stone rite of passage for a man. Like, for example, in the Jewish culture, you have the bar mitzvah, right? And in other cultures, like in Africa and stuff, there's like, these guys, they got to go out and hunt, and they got to kill a lion and bring it back, and then they're a man, and they're celebrated in their village. In Western society, no one knows when you become a man. Is it when you drink your first beer? Is it when you have sex? Is it when you turn 18? Is it when you smoke a cigarette? Is it when you turn 21? There's all this ambiguity because there's a lack of vision among men, especially in Western culture. And what is the conventional wisdom of manhood today? And what do you want that to be for yourself and for your family? And you really got to think about this because it ain't just going to happen. You got to be intentional about these things. The next wound, right, is the heart wound. And this is one. I mean, you can't get away from this, right? And you got to have an answer to this wound, not only for yourself, but you may find that one day your son or your daughter comes to you with the answer for this question: is why do I find myself doing evil? Why am I drawn towards the bad things in life, right? And you got to be able to give an account. Why is there good? Why is there evil? And why is my predisposition to go towards those things that I know aren't right, right? Lust. I'll speak for myself. Lusting after other women. Wanting to judge people. I'm pretty laid back, but every now and then I fly off the handle, man, and I explode. And all this stuff just comes out of me. I'm getting a lot better at it, but why do I find myself in those positions? And I've had to answer this question for myself, and we all do, and we all have to address these wounds that we've had in our life. Some of us will only have one or two of these. Some of us could have all five of these, but until they're addressed, it's going to be really hard for you to move forward in your life and reach that higher calling that you have. So, what is the goal of this, right? Like, where are we going in this series, and what do we want to get out of this? And you know, a precursor to that is you have to think like, how intentional are you willing to be? Because that's going to have a direct correlation on what you experience every Friday as we go through these things. And the two main goals that I would hope that you would want to get out of this is, one, you want to establish a clear and compelling manhood vision. And I'm going to help you with that, right? There's going to be a lot of ideas, like there already has, for this course and what that looks like. And you can take what fits you, man. Take what speaks to you, right? Like what God is speaking to you about these things in your life, and don't run away from them. Get real and deal with them, right? And then we're gonna build out a compelling manhood vision. And what we're gonna also do is we're gonna create a high impact, workable plan for your life that you can look back on and you can refer to from time to time to keep yourself in check, to know where you're going as a man and the things you want to accomplish for your family, for your kids, for your marriage. So we're not just winging it. And I'm as guilty as anybody of a lot of times just winging things, right? Like, I need to be intentional and to take time and think about these things and what am I going to do? I'll give you a quick example, right? Like, my son is going to be 18 next year and he's going to graduate from high school. So I'm very conscious right now of what kind of conversations are we having and what kind of things can I do and teach him to prepare him for life when he leaves, when he leaves the home and he steps out into the real world. And I want that moment in time to, one, be celebrated, and two, I want him to be able to go out there with confidence and with conviction of what he's going to do in his role in changing the world and making the world a better place. So those are the two goals, and that is the thing for this week, brothers, with Man Up Friday. I appreciate you guys tuning in and watching this and everything you're getting out of it. And by all means, if you know a brother who needs this in his life, right, who needs this type of training, this type of encouragement, please share the video, like the video so the reach gets further on Facebook. All of the previous videos are on the page. You can also find them on my YouTube channel. They get uploaded there. But I appreciate you. I love you. I love you enough to share these things with you, and I love you enough to challenge you to be intentional about these things in your life. So have a good night. Tomorrow I'll post the Saturday shout out, and then I'll see you Sunday for another Sunday sermon where we talk about the next chapter in my life, which should be interesting once again as I peel back the curtain. So yeah, have a good night. Love you guys. Talk to you later.